Thanks for joining us for the first ever episode of REV'D UP. I'm Leanne Brothers.
And I'm Tyler Strong. As she talked about our very first episode, thank you for joining us. A little bit about REV'D UP. It is your first stop for all of the NASCAR news going on throughout the entire season. And Leanne, the off season is about to wrap up. There's been a lot going on in the off season that we need to talk about, but specifically this new car.
Yes, the new car, basically, it's just a whole new spruced up car of tomorrow.
I love it.
Except it's called the Generation 6, which I just love the name. That's so futuristic. And
it really is.
It's just a brand new look to this sport.
Yeah, it's talking about, you do kind of struggle for words talking about how exciting this is for NASCAR, but it just really is. That's all you can say. It's just exciting. You talked about the car tomorrow there, how we're going away from that. Back in 2007, that car tomorrow debuted, and it just didn't look like a race car. It looked like a giant shoebox with wheels on it, and they weren't that fun to drive, and the drivers didn't really like them that much. They improved in safety a great deal amount in that car, but
yeah, they added the roll cage bar so that if the car flips over, you know that driver's protected. And this sport relies so much on safety and keeping its drivers safe because it is a very dangerous sport. Yeah. So right when you think they can't make any more improvements, they come out with something else. First it was the Hans device, and now they're making changes to the car. I mean, it's just incredible.
It really is. And one great thing about NASCAR, you talked about, they're always innovating safety, and they're getting ahead of the curve. They're always looking ahead. They don't wait for something to happen that could be tragic. They're always thinking ahead, like take every factor into account. Okay, what if this happens to the car? What if they crashed at this angle on the track? How can we further improve the safety of these cars so these drivers can get out unscathed? We've seen some pretty bad wrecks in these past few years that drivers may have not been able to walk away from in previous years.
If it weren't for those safer barriers that they put in place. But let's say the new changes to the cars, there's the roof flaps, so that helps the car not to flip over if they get into a wreck, which is huge.
Big,
the spoiler is smaller, so that reduces the air dependency of the car. Let's see, what else?
There's a bunch of different changes.
A huge thing. It's 160 pounds lighter.
Yes, huge.
Than the old car. Yes, huge. And the cars went so fast before, especially on the super speedways, they were full throttle. Now, I can't even imagine the speeds that these cars are gonna
It's going to be so fun to watch because it puts so much driving the cars, it puts so much of the ability back into the driver's hands. Before, it was all about, what team are you with? What kind of engines are you being provided? And there was a big gap from the haves and the have-nots. But the way this car is, they're pretty much just starting over from scratch. You have to throw out the playbook, you got to organize a new one, and really I believe you'll see the true driving ability of these athletes out there going around the track because you got to figure out all the different nuances with this car, how they handle in traffic, with bump drafting at Daytona.
And we saw that huge wreck during Daytona's testing. So whenever they face that kind of situation, I think the fans are in for an exciting race because this new car seems like it's going to create problems when it comes to that. So we're probably going to see a lot more wrecks this season.
Yeah, and I mean, if wrecks are your thing with racing and stuff, you'll probably want to tune in to these first races just to see how they all get handled out. And one of the other changes with this car, and it goes a little bit back to the way they used to be back in like the early 2000s and things, that front bumper and the rear bumper of cars and with the different manufacturers, they don't line up exactly right.
No,
and so when they get in bump drafting, they don't line up, and that's what caused that big wreck in testing.
Because it used to be you could drive right up to the driver and you'd fit right under there and you'd kind of just go and you'd pull away from the pack. I don't think that's going to be the case this season.
Which I don't think it will be either, but I think since that's not the case, it'll definitely make for some better racing. It's going to be exciting speed weeks at Daytona, and it's finally here. I'm just so excited. This coming Saturday is the Sprint Unlimited. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's going to be a good time.
Yes, I'm very excited about it. Definitely, we're just getting started here on REV'D UP, so make sure you stay tuned because we'll be back right after these messages.
If you're looking for a new pet that your family will cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are the best places to find a new pet. That's where you'll discover healthy, loyal, and loving animals, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
How you doing? My name's Steve. My family's lived in this neighborhood for years. Recently, things got so tight, we had to go to our local food bank for help. I lost a lot of sleep worrying about what the neighbors might think. That is until I saw them there, too. How'd I do, Steve?
A little stiff. You could have done a little better.
What? Come on. You know, I have an Academy Award.
Yeah, but not for playing me.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
Bring this sweet.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting. So why would you do it while driving? Leave risky driving to the professionals. Stop the texts, and together we can stop the wrecks.
Back here on Rev'd Up, thanks for staying with us. Here are your top stories from the offseason. Five-time champ Jimmie Johnson is scheduled to race in the Nationwide Series. Johnson will drive the number 5 Chevrolet for JR Motorsports on March 2nd at Phoenix International Raceway. This will be his first return to the series since 2011. The car will be sponsored by Great Clips and is scheduled for 28 races. Kasey Kahne and Brad Sweet will split the 27 remaining races between them. Johnson joked that he hopes his next offer to race in the Nationwide Series doesn't take 2 years, but that he is excited to finally make his return.
With a season that didn't start off very promising, Kasey Kahne managed to turn his 2012 season around and finish 4th in the standing. Despite his championship performance, he is still considered to be the underdog in the garage. With teammates like Jeff Gordon and Jimmie Johnson, who both have several championships under their belt, and of course the fan favorite Dale Earnhardt Jr., it's no surprise to Kasey and his fans. Kahne himself even told the media to consider him the underdog. Why? Because he's never won a championship. Does this mean that he doesn't want to be a champion? Absolutely not. He certainly has the ability. The only thing that could harm his chances would be the pressure he's putting on himself. With a team owner like Rick Hendrick, who has all the confidence in the world in his drivers and could very well be the most successful owner in motorsports, Kahne has all the resources he needs to win a championship this year.
Jeff Gordon and DuPont have been as dynamic of a driver-sponsor duo as Richard Petty and STP were. But for the first time in his 21-year career, Gordon will not have DuPont on his car during a NASCAR season. DuPont's car paint unit, which had been sponsoring Gordon's cars, was acquired by Axalta Coating Systems earlier this year. The new sponsor will result in a new paint scheme for NASCAR's winningest active driver, and of course the removal of the famous DuPont logo. Axalta will sponsor 14 races for the 4-time champ, the first being April 13th at Texas Motor Speedway.
It was a big announcement at the end of last season when Matt Kenseth confirmed that he would be leaving Roush Fenway Racing after 14 years. He had accomplished many things while with Jack Roush, including the 2003 championship title, and had one of the biggest stays with an organization. Only Jeff Gordon and Rick Hendrick surpassed them, having been together since 1993. The reason for the split is still unknown, but Kenseth says he is ready for his career to begin with Joe Gibbs Racing. He will take the seat of the number 20 Toyota. Although driver-crew chiefs tend to stick together, Jack Roush made the announcement back in September that Jimmy Fenning will remain with Roush Fenway Racing as Ricky Stenhouse Jr. takes the seat in the number 17 car.
The Sprint Cup cars have not started racing on the track just yet, but hearts have been racing during the off-season between two of the sport's premier rising stars. Danica Patrick and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. confirmed rumors that the two were dating during the NASCAR media tour earlier this year. While this will more than likely be a huge boost for NASCAR in ratings, some people within the sport are uncertain if this will have a positive or negative effect on the racing. Many have brought up the issue of how aggressive the couple will race each other on the track as opposed to when they race other drivers, or how they will race each other if their relationship was to end. This storyline won't be going anywhere anytime soon, though, as Patrick and Stenhouse are the only two drivers competing for Rookie of the Year honors. That's it for the top stories in the off season. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back here on Rev'd Up right after these messages.
When life's this hard, it's no wonder 7,000 students drop out every school day. Visit boostup.org and help kids in your community stay in school.
That's low, that's low. That's low and below. Look, he's blushing. Seriously.
If you're looking for a new pet that your family will cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are the best places to find a new pet. That's where you'll discover healthy, loyal, and loving animals, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
How you doing? My name's Steve. My family's lived in this neighborhood for years. Recently, things got so tight, we had to go to our local food bank for help. I lost a lot of sleep worrying about what the neighbors might think. That is until I saw them there, too. How'd I do, Steve?
A little stiff. You could have done a little better.
What? Come on. You know, I have an Academy Award.
Yeah, but not for playing me.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
Welcome back to Rev'd Up. Thanks for staying with us, Tyler. We are now going to look at the media side of the off-season and what happened.
Yeah, it's a TV show, so we might as well talk about the different things that have been happening on the media side and the TV side. The big one that we want to start off with, Fox and NASCAR renew their contract through the 2022 year, which I haven't even thought about saying 2022, 2022. I don't know how exactly you word it there, but that's really big for NASCAR. But because Fox arguably brings the best coverage to the table in racing. They have the Daytona 500. They'll have the Sprint Unlimited race this coming weekend, and so they just do a really good job. It's good to have them around in the sport.
It is, but you know what? With the decline in ratings for NASCAR, they've seen that continually drop each year. So for NASCAR, it's ending up costing them a lot of money. Sources have valued the deal for this at more than $2.4 billion over 8 years.
That's billion with a B, not million, billion.
Yeah, billion with a B. That's a lot, okay? And that's an $80 million increase from what they're paying Fox right now to air their broadcast. So that is huge. And their ratings have been slipping, like I said. And of course, that's going to jack up the prices. But also, Fox only airs 13 Cup races. Of course, they cover the Craftsman Truck Series. But it's also digital promotion as well. So it's neat to touch on that too, because you know we've got ESPN that covers races, TNT. So this is a huge deal that happened over the offseason, and as well Fox to buy out the Speed Channel, which takes care of all of the pre-race coverage that fans look forward to with race day and all the qualifying coverage. If that's not going to be on Speed anymore and Fox is taking over that, that's huge.
Yeah, you really wonder what exactly is going to happen. And, you know, you went back to that, talk about the price increase. I really think that just shows how much NASCAR needs Fox in this, but it also shows that Fox wants to be in this as well. And like you talked about there with Fox buying out Speed, it's going to be interesting to see how it all shapes out because, like you said, NASCAR, like race day, like the morning of the race, that's all your pre-race coverage right there. And then they have NASCAR Victory Lane after the race. And when you think about it, they put so much coverage into NASCAR, and with the qualifying races that will be coming this Thursday to kind of be the precursor into the Daytona 500, those are also on Speed. And so you wonder if NASCAR will be kind of put on the back burner when it comes to this new Fox Sports Network, or will they still make NASCAR a top priority, which we certainly hope they do because a lot of people definitely watch it.
Fox is huge, and they are looking to, there's speculation, they're not confirming 100% either way, but there's talk that Fox is going to convert into a multi-sport network, kind of like ESPN. That could create a huge rivalry between those two stations.
Exactly right.
Speed, like you had mentioned earlier, they do so much coverage for NASCAR, and the fans tune into that and look forward to that each race weekend. They're currently broadcasting an average of 25 hours a week of all NASCAR stuff. Wow. So if they take that away, I mean, I kind of feel like that's going to influence fans for this sport.
Yeah, because not only, you know, you talk about all the coverage they do the qualifying sessions, they carry like all the practices, but there's also NASCAR coverage going on that's not on, you know, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They have all the broadcasts during the week of weekly shows like NASCAR Race Hub, and they have a performance show. The name of it slips my mind, where they talk to all the different crew chiefs about, you know, different car parts and different things and how those relate to NASCAR. And you know, it'll be a big change not to flip through the TV and find something like that. But one other note that we need to talk about here in the off season that will be a big positive for NASCAR and for fans alike. They have a new track drying system called the NASCAR Air Titan. And what this does, it reduces, like if there was a downpour at the racetrack, usually it would take a track like Daytona about 2 hours
to dry.
To get dry. It will only take them 30 minutes now.
This new system is going to do wonders for the sport because, you know, when it would downpour and it would rain, they would have to postpone the race. Yeah. Now, with this new air drying system, the Air Titan, I mean, it's crazy. I love it. Yeah.
It's awesome because
I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, with that loss for words right there, we'll go ahead and take it a break. When we come back, we'll have our final segment here in our inaugural edition of Rev'd Up. So stick with us. We'll be back right after this.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting. So why would you do it while driving? Leave risky driving to the professionals. Stop the texts, and together we can stop the wrecks.
If you're looking for a new pet that your family will cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are the best places to find a new pet. That's where you'll discover healthy, loyal, and loving animals, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Today is a special day. Today we gather as a nation and as an international community to recognize the selfless decision of one of the most influential women of our time. She's been recognized by religious figures and politicians around the world. To us, she's just Rachel. But to the rest of the world, she's the woman who, after having one too many drinks, chose not to drive home buzzed. Here today to honor Rachel is the family whose lives she spared.
Leanne, we've talked about the off-season, we've talked about media tours, we've talked about the relationships that have been going on, all the practices that have been happening, but guess what? Racing in itself is actually here. This coming Saturday is NASCAR's first exhibition race. The Sprint Unlimited always proves to be some exciting action with these new cars. Who knows what we'll see?
I have no idea. I can tell you I am certainly very excited for it. Of course, this is a non-points race for the driver, so who knows what we'll see, some beating and banging for sure. I mean, we saw that in Daytona for testing. Yeah. They were at each other, and wrecks all over the place.
It was really crazy to watch, especially in the practices and the testing when everybody's supposed to be even-keeled and have cool tempers or not show any kind of flair or anything. You see those big wrecks like that happen even when they're just intentional. So it's going to be exciting to watch. And one thing you talked about, it's the first exhibition race. It's a non-points race. And, you know, when you compare it to other sports like football and baseball, sometimes when these, when the games don't mean anything, you see people kind of get half-hearted efforts. It's not the case in racing. They're going out there full throttle because they know there's a pretty big check waiting for them at the end of the race if they were to win.
That is very true, Tyler. And of course, that race sets up what we're going to see for the Daytona 500 this year. This is the biggest race of the entire year. It's kind of like the Super Bowl, I guess you could say, for NASCAR. So that's certainly going to be very exciting. Some top performances lined up. I know Zach Brown Band has announced that they're going to be there to perform the pre-race show. But then the lead singer of that is also going to perform the national anthem.
Yeah, one of my personal favorite bands. I'm excited about that too. And I tell you, if you are excited about the Daytona 500, you want to make sure you tune in this Saturday, though, to that Sprint Unlimited race, because usually in that game, or in that race, I should say, you kind of see some people really show what they're made of. And the guys that are good in that race are usually good in the 500 and usually good in the qualifying races that are next Thursday. And we'll recap all those in later episodes. But you can usually see, you know, which cars will rise to the top, so to speak, and which cars are really going to be strong. And I tell you, for the Daytona 500, you think the little, Sprint Unlimited races are exciting, but that's not really that long of a race. But then you get the 500, and it's 200 laps, 500 miles, everybody just going all out because, like you said, it's the Super Bowl of racing, and it's kind of tough to pick a winner, but I guess here we can pick some winners. Who do you think?
Of course, I'm going to pick Casey Kane, my personal favorite. I mean, he's the underdog for the season.
Sure.
Why not pick him,
That's very true.
I think he's got a really good chance, a brand new season ahead of him. I think he'll be great.
Now, I know Casey Kane is your favorite driver, but if you had to have a fallback to go on, because naturally I'm going to pick my favorite to win too, but I've got a backup plan. What's your backup driver that you're going to pick to win?
My backup driver is definitely, let's see, probably Tony Stewart.
I think that's a good
pick. You know what?
He
has done so well at Daytona, but he's never actually won the race. So I think he could definitely be a big contender.
And
race.
Earlier we talked about the new Generation 6 car, and I mean, it's pretty much just thrown a curveball at all of these different teams because everybody just has to start from scratch and work from the ground up to really get the handle of these new cars. And at the top of the show, we talked about how it puts the ability back into the driver's hands as much as the machines. And you want to talk about one of the great pure drivers in NASCAR, it's Tony Stewart, and I think that's a really good pick. Now, for my pick, I know I talked about my favorites, Jeff Gordon. He's my favorite, but I think I want to go with Matt Kenseth. I think he's the kind of the dark horse. I think he could be a dark horse for even the season, maybe to win the championship. And
he'll be the first driver, if he does win the championship, to do that since Darrell Waltrip.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's big. It's very, very big. And Kenseth won the Daytona 500 last year. He won some more restrictor plate races last year, including the fall Talladega race in the chase. He avoided the big calamity on the last lap of that, got through it,
that was amazing.
Won the race. It was crazy. And I believe, it's sad to say, a lot of people do watch NASCAR for the wrecks. And if you are one of those fans, you may want to tune in for the Daytona 500 because it's going to be crazy what all happens in that. So my picks, Jeff Gordon. If not him, I think Matt Kenseth. But it's just going to be exciting. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens.
Exactly. We won't be back here next week, but definitely the weekend after the Daytona 500. Make sure you guys tune in right here on Rev'd Up because we'll have all the highlights from that race. We'll take a look at the point standings heading into the season, and we'll just have tons of stuff to cover. So we'll see you back here in a few weeks.